Kakadosh, Boker Or. Daf Yomi Masechet Shevuot Daf Amud Aleph 681. Hi Mai. Says the Gemara, what are you asking, Michal? Bishlema below seed Hechal. I understand without the seed Hechal, mikrum beitza, from krum beitza I'm not going to ask. Te'afal gav the krum beitza mitatai de set. Because even though the krum beitza comes from under set, Rachman Amar, the Torah says, v'laseh v'lasapachat. Now in the sapachat, it's tefillah to the set. So even though afal gav the menachem in etuva, even though it's two below, but it's still there. Because the Torah made it tafel. Ela sid echal kashya, but the sid echal is going to be a question, right? According to Rabbi Akiva. Ela rather machvarta matziti de lo Rabbi Akiva. So therefore, it's not going to be like Rabbi Akiva, which means like this: there was a special din that since the Torah said velaset velasapachat, and what is the sapachat? The krum beitza. So therefore, there's a special din that even though there's seed in between, I could still learn the krum beitza from the se'et, the toladah, from the av, even though I'm skipping. Right? No, because it doesn't say that in the pasuk. So therefore, he comes and he says, if it wasn't for the fact of the sidechal, I wouldn't be able to ask from the krum beitza. Because the krum beitza, the Torah says it. The Torah says, levelaset v'lasapachat. So the sapachat is tafel, and therefore, since it's going to be tafel, so therefore, that's why I could still compare it. But I can't do that to the sidechal. Okay? Fine. So he comes now and he says like this. Did you realize that the only reason why we do that is because even though that we just said that there's two, which become four, we had se'et and we had ba'eret. But the Torah comes in one pasuk and says, velaset velasapachat ulbaheret. It brought in the sapachat in the middle. Why did it bring in the sapachat in the middle? To teach you that it's tafel, right? The sapachat, which is going to be the krum beitza, is going to be tafel to the se'et. So therefore, even though the seed is above it and it's making a pasek, it doesn't matter. I could still go up because the pasuk made it go up. But that I could only do by the krum beitza. I can't do that by the other one because the other one is not mentioned in the pasuk that it's tafello. Okay? So for obviously it comes out that our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Akiva. Because according to Rabbi Akiva, you could only go up and down with the one. You can't jump. So says the Gemara, Ve'echa shamin Rabbi Akiva, zol ma'ala mizo. Where do we learn according to Rabbi Akiva that each one is above each other and therefore you could mitzaref only that which is above it? So Ilim, if you're going to tell me Maditanya, that which we learned in the Braita, Rabbi Yosef, Sha'al Yoshua benosh Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Akiva. This is interesting. This is Yoshua, the son of Rabbi Akiva, asks Rabbi Akiva. He says, this is Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha. And Korcha is a kinui to Rabbi Akiva because he was kereach. Yeah? You see? You could be a Rabbi Akiva and you're bold. So you shouldn't be, what's it called? Right? Upset. Yeah? If a person's bald. Yeah? Fine. So he comes and he says, Rabbi Akiva was bald. So Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha is Rabbi Yoshua, the son of Rabbi Akiva. Okay, everyone heard of Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha, yeah? Yeah? So Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha is the ben of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was kereach, so therefore that's Rabbi Yoshua, the son of Rabbi Akiva. Okay? Why did they say Maron Negaim, Shnayim Shem Rabba? Why did they say Maron Negaim is going to be two, which become four? Amarlo, he told them, Vim Lav, and if not, Ma Yomru, what are they going to say? So Yomru, Mikrum Beitzal Mala Tameh. If you're not going to tell me that Shnayim Shem Rabba, Rabbi Akiva comes and he tells Rabbi Yeshua, if it wouldn't have said that, I would have said that Krum Beitza and above is going to be Tameh, which means only the one which is more Keheh. Krum Beitza, Shemimenu Ulmata, and Zemane Tameh. So, and from above, yes. Amalo, he says, Lomar Shemitzarfim Zemizeh. Amalo, he says, Vyomru Mikum Beitza Ulmala Tameh Mitzafim Zemizeh. Amalo, Lomar Lecha to tell you, Kol Kohen Sheno Baki Bahen, Uvishmotehem Eno Roe Bahen Et Negeim. If you have a Kohen that is not a Baki in the Maron Negaim, he cannot testify on them. He cannot pass on them. You heard? The Kohen has to be Baki in the Maron Negaim. If he's not a Baki, if he doesn't know the names properly and he doesn't know what we're talking about, he's in trouble. Yeah? He can't pass on them. So imagine, you can have a Kohen You didn't come, Tim. Sorry. Not me. Yeah. Ve'ilu misida echal ulmala lo kamar, but from sida echal, he didn't say it. Midelo amar le, so why didn't he say that? He says, Shema mina deshmiya le Rabbi Akiva damar, le behad he said mitztarfim. That he says all the marot are mitztarfim with the se'et. So from here we learn that according to Rabbi Akiva, they can also mitztaref zu lemala mizo with the closest one. Meaning according to Shittat Rabbi Akiva, we had number 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one could be mitztaref with one above it. So the seed could be mitztaref with a se'et. The sapachat, which is the krum beitza, could also be mitztaref with a se'et because it was a tafello, and the top one, what was the top one? The baheret could also be mitztaref with a se'et because it's right under it. So it comes out that all the three nigaim kulam avaraki maset, only with a se'et. One more time. Baheret to the se'et, because it's one above each other. Right? The seed with the se'et, it's one on top of each other. The krum beitza is written, the krum beitza is the sapachat. The sapachat was tafel to the se'et. So therefore, since it was tafel to the se'et, so therefore, no, the sapachat is the krum beitza. So since the sapachat is the krum beitza and the sapachat is tafel to the se'et, so therefore, you could also do the krum beitza to the se'et. But no, baheret you could do with the se'et, right? But you cannot do the baheret with the krum beitza or the seed. Because we just said you could only go one up and one above. So the se'et זה בעיקרון באמצע.
אבל הקרום ביצה כן מתחבר עם הסט.
רק בגלל שזה טפל לו. אבל הוא לא יכול לצרף עם הבהרת. אבל הוא לא יכול לטהר, הוא לא יכול לצרף עם הבהרת. קרום ביצה לא יכול עם בהרת.
אם החוק הזה של קרום ביצה וסט עובד, חוק מספר 1, למה חוק מספר 1 גם לא חל על סט בהרת?
We already answered that. We answered that. Because the Torah said, the משפט, ולעשה ולספחה ולבהרת, שזה טפל לו, שזה מקשר את זה. It becomes secondary to it, so it's מקשר את זה. זה לא כתוב אצל הבהרת והסיד. Are you guys with me or not? It's beautiful. The truth is just pay attention. If you guys are paying attention, it's again, it's not crazy. I'm saying it's I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's not, it's so we just brought down this concept of the son of Rabbi Akiva. So Shema mina deshvil Rabbi Akiva damar kulu levadi said mitzafin. So everything is going to be mitzaref with a set. But Dilma maybe ask the Gemara, maybe se'et v'tolata and baher v'tolata. Ask the Gemara, why don't I say that it's going to be number 1 and number 3 and number 2 and number 4? Doctor, you with me? What is number 1 and number 3? Baheret with the seed. And number 2 and number 4? Se'et with the krum beitza, which is also sapachat. Yeah? So he comes and he says, why don't I just say that way? So he says, Ela mid Rabbi Chanina, but rather it's like Rabbi Chanina. Tamar Rabbi Chanina says Rabbi Chanina, Mashal to Rabbi Akiva, the Mashal Rabbi Akiva to Maldome, Arba kosot shel chalav. I've got 4 cups of milk. Echad nafal letochot shte tipim shel dam. One of them 2 drops of blood fell into it. Echad nafal arba tipim shel dam. Another one 4 drops of blood fell into it. Ve'echad naflu letoch shmonea, ve'echad naflu letoch 12 tipim. One of them fell 8, and one of them fell 12. Ve'amni latzab to say 16 tipim. Shekulan marot lo benhem. They all look like milk, right? But they're all still lavan. But just it's got a different tinge. It's got a different shade. So ela sheze lemala mizeh v'zeh lemala mizeh. Each one is above each other. So therefore, that's why he's coming and saying that each one is going to be a different type of a bahir yoter, right? And not. But that's how you have it. So Eimar d'shama le Rabbi Akiva bepatuch. I'm going to say that everything that we heard about Rabbi Akiva is in a mare patuch. Patuch is basically when you have lavan and adom together, red and white together. But bechaluk, what happens if you have a mar'eh lavan by itself? Right? He comes and he says, why? What about without the tarovet admumit? What about with the lavan by itself? Mishamale, does he hear it? Meaning like this: if I come and I take right the red and the white, so then yes, there's different shades because the more that you put the white, you're going to dilute the red, right? Or the other way around. Here, you're going to color the white with the red, right? Now he comes and he says like this. He comes and he says, what happens if there's no red at all? I took away the shade red, and I only have white. Well, there's different whites also as well. There's off-white. There's this way. There's many different shades of white. So he says, "V'chitei man." You're going to tell me, "Ki echad shama le befatuch, achi shama le bechaluk, uvpatuch kufa mi shama le." Where do you hear it? Latanya, we learned to the Braita, Rabbi Akiva Omer, Adamdam. We had it in this week's parasha all the time. Adamdam, Adamdamet, right? You had a whole bunch of them. So he says, yeah, Adamdam, he comes and he says, Shebazeh v'shebazeh, ki yain hamazug b'mayim. It's like wine, which you diluted in water. When you take the wine and you dilute it. So he says, Ela shel baheret azah kasheleg. But when you have the baheret azah, like sheleg, or seed, which is dehem emena, so he says, because of the finishing words of Rabbi Akiva, I understand that baheret and seed is bazeh bazeh, which means there's two different marot. So if so, right, the first two are going to be mitzaref marot, according to Rabbi Akiva, is baheret and then the seed. So you are going to be mitzaref otam. Okay? Vav amud bet. 6b. Ken, well, we're almost done.
7 דקות.
Bein ita. Now, if he says that you're going to say shel tzemer dehaimenu mibaile, so then you should have said tzemer is going to be darker, because we know that tzemer is not really mamash white. If you look, I remember once it happened, right? That he comes and he says this, Amri, we said, Inachan Ami, you're right. Yeah, you're correct. So he says, Vatanya, we learned to the Braita. Rabbi Natan says, Lo she'amar Rabbi Akiva, not Rabbi Akiva shall said si dehemenu, ela shel tzemer dehemenu, meaning the tzemer is actually going to be a deeper color than the seed. Uminala the baheret azah. How do we know that baheret is actually going to be azahi? How do we know that it's mamash? That means baheret was the top one. You remember we said the baheret was like the snow, so it's Snow White, right? That's what you even call it, Snow White. Which one? No, it's all the same tuma. It's all the same tuma. It's just different colors. Okay, but it's the strongest form. Meaning this type of tuma is called this. It's like the flu. How many variants of the flu you have? Tons. But it's called the flu. So this is called tzarat. But what type of tzarat? This is the baheret. The baheret is a zaka sheleg. It's very, very white. So he says, how do we know? 10 minutes. So he comes and he says like this. So he says, right? We said, how do we know the baheret is azah? I'm going to buy a Merkada Pasuk says, baheret levana hi. Hi levana v'nacheret levana kemota. Meaning, since it's baheret levana hi, so since it says baheret levana, the only one which is mamash levana, the only one which is mamash white is the baheret. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned to the Braita. Baheret is a mukah. It looks very deep. V'chen hu mareh amok min haor. Kemareh chama mukah min hatzel. Just like the sun is deeper than the shade. Se'et en se'et al gavot. Se'et is higher up. V'chen hu omer al kol ha'arim anamim al kol gavot hanisaot. Tapachat en tapachat el tefillah. It's tafel to something else. V'chen hu omer v'amar sevcherina. Right, so basically beautiful. Here, did you realize we're talking about, right, whether something is going to be deep or on the surface. Okay? Now it says, Ashkechan tefillah l'se'et. Then we found that it's going to be tafel to the se'et. Tefillah lebeheret minalam. Meaning we only found something which is going to be tefel to se'et. What was tafel to the se'et? Sapachat. What's a sapachat? Krum metzah. So he says, what is tafel to the baheret? Tamar bizera, says bizera, nemra levana, and it says by se'et, right? Nemra levana by baheret. Meaning it says levana by both. It says se'et ki levana, and it says so mal levana amura beset yesh tefila. So the levana amura yesh tefila. במצנית התנא איתי לכתוב לספחת בין צל לבהרת, ואומר לך כשיש תפילה לסעת, כך תפילה לבהרת. So two different ways of learning. How do we know that there's also going to be something tafel, something secondary to the baheret as well? Se'et is like tzemer lavan. It's like white wool. My tzemer lavan. Amar Rabbi Ravasi, tzemer naki ben yomon. Mamash, it's like you just took it off today. Shemechabnin bol lebilat. That they wash it in order to come and use it for clothing. Amar Rabbi Chanina says, what is the mashal of the rabbis that we have 4 different types of colors? So he comes and he says, litre malche v'litre parche. You're talking about like 2 kings and 2 moshlim. I don't know how you say it in English. It's like 2 kings and 2 secondaries. Right? No, that's the way he calls it. So he says, אחד נתון למלותו של מלך ואחד מושל, זה שני לו. So he says, מלכו של זה למעלה ממלכו של זה. One of the 2 melachim is higher than the other one. So therefore, obviously, the mashal, which is kafufto, is also going to be higher than the other one. Meaning, if you have 2 kings, a mayor, okay, you have a king and then you have a mayor. And you have a king and a mayor. So if you have the 2 kings, if this king is higher up, that means it could be that this, which one? Okay, I don't know. That's what he said. Yeah? Fine. So he says, if you're going to come and you're going to say that, so which one is it? Right? It could be that the governor here is the king, right? It depends on what we're talking about.
No,
So,
Melech v'Moshe, king and governor.
okay, whichever one it is. So he says like this. So he says, "Malkosh shel zeh lemala malkosh shel zeh, v'malkosh shel zeh lemala malkosh shel zeh." Right? Fine. Hi, zeh lemala v'zeh lemala hu. Says 1 second, but they're all up on the top. What's going on? Ela malkosh shel zeh lemala miparched nafsheh, u'malkosh shel zeh lemala miparched nafsheh. He says each one is better than the meaning. This king is going to be greater than his own moshel, and the other king is greater than his moshel. Meaning the baheret is obviously better than the seed. And the se'et is obviously going to be better than the krub beitzah. Rav Ada Baraba Amar, Higon Malka ve'al kapta. Right? He says it's like the king, and a king which is lower down. And a rufla is a moshel, right? Which is a sarah chashuv shel hamelech. And resh kaluta, which is a sarah chashuv of the klapta. So again, I don't know, you would have to see in English. So, like basically like, like how it is even in the army that there's different, there's a major, sergeant, captain, what? Colonel, right? The colonel, right? Which is the colonel, right? All these. So you have all these different, the same thing. Okay, major sergeant. Yeah, there's just so many different names. So that's what it is, right? Fine. Ela kigon. No. Okay. Rava comes and he says, kigon shivur malka ve'kisar. We're talking about shivur malka, which is the king of Pras, and the kisar, the melech romi. So Amaleh Rav Papa Rava says Rav Papa to Rava, Hai minai hu adif. He says which one of the two melachim are more adif, shivur or the kisar? Meaning, which one's better, a Caesar or the Kesar, or the Shevut? So he says, Amaleh bechur shakachile. He says, Biarot, right? Mutman. I mean, what? He never heard of it? Of Malchut Romi? That he has to ask such a question? Puchazitiva man sagi balma. He says, go look who's known more. Meaning, what do you know more? Do you know more the mayor or the governor, or the governor or the what's it called, or the president? You know, obviously, just check there. תכתיב ותאכל כל עולה ותשנו את זה כנראה. אמר רבי יוחנן זול רומי חייבת שטיבה יצא בכל העולם כולו. This is the Caesar. So that means obviously Caesar is going to be much greater than anything else, than a Shvur, which is the king of Pras, because a Caesar, everybody knew about the Caesars. Ravina Amar, כגון גלימה דאמר. We're talking about like a new glima of tzemet, the shachake, and glima tzemet, which is, it becomes like worn out. Sedina de kitna, where the sedina of pishtan chadash, the shachke, that it's also worn out. Fine. Nekuda, shte nekudot. We're almost done, right? Et sheyesh b'yediah. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Minayin she'ena katuv medaber ela betumat mikdash kodashav. How do we know the pasuk is talking about tumat mikdash in kodashav? Vedinu, it's a kal vachomer. He says, hol v'yizir v'anash al tumah v'chayav korban al tumah. Right? He says, if right now the Torah came and he gave a warning against tumah that you did a b'mezid, and it was mechayav korban on the tumah, ma keshiyizir, just like when he made the warning. V'anash al tumah lo yizir v'anash al tumah mikdash v'kodashav. Only on Tumah Mikdash. So when he was Mechayev a Korban on the Tumah, Lo Chayev al Tumah Mikdash v'Kodashav. Ve'ima shehizir v'anash. He says, 1 second, why don't you say about Truma? If a person comes and he ate Truma b'shogeg, maybe also you're going to get punished and everything. So he says, Lo ashkechan avon mita dechayav al Korban. We never saw an avon mita that if you did a mita b'dei shamayim, that you're going to be chayav a Korban, which is a Korban chatat. Right? But here it is. Meaning, why? Because it's not the same thing like an Isur Chamur, like karet. Meaning, you remember, I think it was Richard that brought this up. Truma is not the same like Kodesh. Kodesh is a korbanot. Truma is not the same as Kodesh. If a person comes and he ate the Kodesh outside, he's chayav karet. Person ate Truma and he's not a Kohen, he's chayav mita b'dei shamayim. It's not the same thing. So because of that, there's only going to be chayav a korban only when it's going to be in such a fashion that it's going to be a karet and not on mita b'dei shamayim. Ema and when do we say that? Only in a korban kavua. Aval ulev yored. Right, 90. Why don't we bring him? So says the Gemara, the pasuk says, "Ba lemiuta truma." When it says that it's only going to be that when a person is going to touch tumato sheitma ba is coming lapuke to truma. So when somebody touches a truma, he does not bring a korban ole vio.